Some paragraphs may need internal transitional words to help the reader move smoothly from one thought to the next, so that the ideas do not appear disconnected or choppy. Transitions are also necessary between paragraphs for the same reason. Transitional words can introduce examples, compare, contrast, sequence, and signify results. Here's a list of transitions that give examples. These are found on page 70 of the book. Here are some transitions that do comparisons. Again, found on page 70 of the book. Contrasting transitions. These transitions show sequence. I tend to use these at the beginning of body paragraphs. First, second, and third sound trivial, but are actually very nice. And the last set of transitions are for results. Sometimes a paragraph might feel wrong, not because the information isn't relevant, but because the information doesn't sound relevant. If you find yourself in this situation, you might want to use keywords or phrases to connect the evidence back to the topic sentence. For instance, in our Puerto Rico example, the student could have said, "The U.S. needs to relinquish dominance over its smaller Commonwealth nations." This is a vague sentence, and more importantly, it has nothing to do with the topic of the essay, Puerto Rico. By simply replacing the words nations with Puerto Rico, the statement instantly connects to the main idea of the paragraph. The U.S. needs to relinquish dominance over its smaller Commonwealth, Puerto Rico. When I was teaching high school, I had a student who loved to overuse slang when talking to me. I remember him saying, "Yo, Miss Brown," and "chillax" all the time. He used slang so much that he really seemed to be daring me to correct him, but I would quietly smile and instead enjoy our conversations. One day, flabbergasted by my uninterest in his verbal grammar, he asked me, "Hey, why don't you ever correct my English? Don't you want me to be good at English?" I knew this question would come up sooner or later. I explained to him the difference between the spoken voice and the writing voice. The spoken voice cannot follow standard English grammar 100% of the time. I dare anyone to hold an engaged and natural conversation that adheres to all standard English grammar rules. Narrating this PowerPoint has been particularly difficult as I have tried to be grammatically correct, so as not to confuse my students who I can't immediately interact with. In a sense, I'm speaking with my writer's voice. The spoken voice is also the expression of the self, of a person's identity. I could not ask my high school student to speak like I do, just as he couldn't ask me to speak like him. Finally, spoken voice is informal by nature because it is expressive and full of nonverbal communication. The writer's voice is different. Unlike the spoken voice, it can be controlled by standard English grammar. It is also a standard form of written language that is universal in all academic settings. This allows for consistency and clarity throughout age groups, education levels, and regional areas. For example, a professor living here in Arizona teaching at Glendale Community College could read an essay written by, let's say, a much younger student who lives in perhaps Louisiana. Having a standard form of written language allows us to communicate no matter what age group or area we've come from. Let's see how the writer's voice applies to your writing in this class. When writing, the spoken voice will often creep into your essay. Let's look at the example in pink. Note that the underlined sections are pieces of the spoken voice that has crept into the writing. So anyways, it's really important for citizens of the U.S. to vote on Election Day. Otherwise, it's pretty much like wasting the rights we've been given. Did you see the misuse of the personal pronoun we? Why is it a misuse? Because it was not used to cite a specific personal experience. Also, notice how the little phrases "so anyways" and "it's pretty much like" are all phrases you can hear someone say, but they're not appropriate in writing. Now, let's read the revised blue writing. It's critically important for citizens of the U.S. to vote on Election Day. Otherwise, Americans will be wasting the rights that have been given to them. Notice that this blue example was written in third person. I urge you to suppress your spoken voice. I will use the term spoken voice when grading your essay to help you see where you've deviated from the academic writer's voice. It is harder than you might realize to suppress your spoken voice, but with practice, your writer's voice will come to you more naturally, and you will have to police your spoken voice less and less. I always seem to get this question. Miss Brown, do spelling and punctuation count? Yes, it counts. And finally, to ensure excellent writing, remember to revise more than you may think is necessary. Don't forget that the Writing Center is available to you either in person or electronically by emailing your work. I strongly recommend that you use them anytime that you might be stuck. This concludes the Revising Your Essay PowerPoint. I hope you've enjoyed it.